Hello, my name is Moses Okosun. Today I'll be talking about perspective in psychology. So let's talk about psychology. What is psychology? Psychology is a systematical examinations of human thought and actions. It examines how individuals think, feel, and, and behave. And also it encompasses their motivations, reactions to their surroundings, and the elements that affect this dimension. There are two major psychological perspectives. They are the behavioral perspective and the cognitive perspective. So let's talk about the behavioral perspective. The behavioral perspective focuses on observable behavior. This perspective, it suggests that all behaviors are learned through interactions with the environment. And this perspective is often associated with the work of psychologists like B.F. Skinner and John B. Watson. So in the other slide, I'll be talking about the key aspects of the behavioral perspective, which include the conditioning, the observational learning, and the reinforcement. So let's talk about the cognitive perspective. The cognitive perspective, it analyzes how we handle the information we obtain and how we manage this information resulting to our reactions. The cognitive psychology focuses on the process occurring in our mind that connects stimuli with response in the following way. First, in a perceptions way. This way it's view how we view the world around us. Secondly, the memory. This way is how we recall information and express it. Thought. This way is how we make sense of the world around us. And lastly, problem solving. This focus on how we overcome challenges. In the next slide, we'll be talking about the comparisons between the two perspectives, the cognitive perspective and the behavioral perspective. Firstly, let's talk about the cognitive perspective. The comparisons of these two perspectives. The cognitive perspective assumes that meta process such as memory, thinking, problem solving, and perceptions are centers to understanding human behavior. Also, this perspective, it suggests that individuals actively interpret and process information from the environment. What is the strength about this perspective? The cognitive perspective has contributed significantly to the understanding of various psychological phenomena such as memory, learning, and problem solving. It is backed by a sustainable amount of empirical evidence. So let's talk about the comparisons of behavioral perspective. The behavioral perspective assumes that all behaviors is learned from environment through conditioning. It suggests that human behavior can be understood by studying observable behavior rather than internal mental process. What is the strength of this behavioral perspective? The behavioral perspective is based on observable and measurable behavior, making it significantly rigorous. It has practical applications in areas such as behavior modifications and therapy. So what is the limit of behavioral perspective? It often ignores the role of internal mental process and biological factors in human behavior. It may oversimplify human behavior by ignoring the complexity of human thought and emotions. So in this slide, I'll be talking about the similarities and difference between two perspectives in psychology, which are the cognitive perspective and the behavioral perspective. So the similarity of the cognitive perspective is the cognitive perspective view in psychology center on individual process, the information they receive and how this process influence their response. It focuses on the process in our mind, connecting stimulus and response, input and response, which is output. The similarity of the behavioral perspective is that it emphasizes visible actions. Behavioral assert that our reactions to environment triggers influence our behavior. This perspective holds that behaviors can be analyzed in methodical and observable way, disregarding internal meta conditions. The similarity and difference of cognitive perspective and behavioral perspective is that both perspectives are concerned with the understandings of human behavior. Both perspectives use empirical evidence and experimental to support their theories. The difference is that the cognitive perspective focuses on internal meta process, while the behavioral perspective focuses on observable behaviors. The cognitive perspective considers the mind as source of behavior, while the behavioral perspective considers the environment as source of behavior. So in this slide, I'll be talking about the applications of perspective to contemporary issues in psychology. So let's first of all focus on the cognitive perspective. The applications of the cognitive perspective is that the cognitive perspective viewpoint has been utilized in various fields, including cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also known as CBT. The CBT is a widely used type of psychotherapy designed to alter harmful thoughts and behavioral patterns. It is utilized for addressing several issues such as depression, anxiety disorder, and phobia. Behavioral perspective. In the behavioral viewpoint has been utilized in behavior change methods, including those employed in parenting and addressing phobia. For instance, systematical desensitization, a method utilized for phobia treatment, relies on the concept of classic conditioning. So in conclusion, both viewpoints provide important understanding of human behavior, but yet they emphasize different phases of it. The cognitive approach investigates the meta process that results in behavior, whereas the behavioral approach focuses on the behavior itself and the environment. Both viewpoints have been utilized to tackle modern challenges in psychology, showcasing their outgoing significance.